Okay, let's do one more tutorial in the old iClone 5. We're going to do just a simple down and dirty modification of an old G3 character. I think this is a Dylan. And we'll just do a simple modification to create our swamp Thang, as it were. So let's start. So here he is. Let's go ahead and eliminate some things. Probably don't want the hair at this point, so we can just remove that. Probably the shoes we can lose, so let's just go ahead and turn the opacity down there. Shoes. The shirt, possibly not, so let's lose that and turn the opacity down there. Okay, the pants you could either lose or not. If he's a natural creature, you might lose them. This particular character does have an underpant on, which is a good thing, I guess. But let's do another little modification and create some ragged pants. So he might once have been human, let's say. If you have set up your preferences, and you'll have preferences in iClone 6 and of course in 5, if you have an art graphics program, you need to set that right here under texture editor, and it will launch that when we hit the launch button. And I happen to be using Adobe Photoshop. But GIMP, which is free, will work as far as I know as well. So when we click this button right here and we launch this particular texture, it's going to open up Photoshop or your paint program. And I'm going to add another layer right here, and let's just draw a ragged, jagged line here. And I'm not going to be careful at all because he is a swamp Thang after all. But maybe he was once human. So I'm just going to drag a selection area here. Now I'm going to fill it with white. Got to be absolute white, like so. And then I'm going to add another layer. And I'm going to turn off the selection now and make sure it's solid black, complete black. Okay, and now I'm going to save that as an opacity map, and you can save it wherever you want to save it. And we'll just do a save as, and we'll come back into iClone after we've saved it. Okay, we're back in iClone, and we saved that as a JPEG in Photoshop. And as I said, you can use GIMP or some other programs, paint programs that are free. Which will work just fine. So we'll save it as a JPEG, and we're going to open up our opacity receptor box, and we saved it as pants 3, and so now I'm going to open it up. Now we have an opacity map. This is going to be much easier in iClone 6. You'll be able to drag these files directly into the icon window, and that's going to make things a lot easier. So now we have ragged pants. And they're crude and rough, but I think those will work just fine for our swamp Thang, who might once have been human. And so now we've got the clothes taken care of. And so now let's move on to the texture, a simple texture. Now a place I like to go for textures is over at cgtextures.com. And I'm going to look around over here, and you got these cool grunge maps you can use. I went down into marble, and I found a marble. And now a lot of times you can find textures, and these are free, that are tileable. That means you can have multiples of this texture, and it will be seamless. So a tileable seamless image is really cool to have. So I selected this one, and we'll use this one to load in to iClone as our texture. Okay, so let's go back here now and select skin. And let's go ahead and do the upper. And right now, let's just play with the blend map. So I'm going to open this up, and let's go to where we saved our free texture we got from cgtextures.com. And here's the green marble. Okay, and now we've got that. Interesting, but not too interesting. Now if we change the blend mode, you see, you get cool different ways of blending. So let's go in here and take a quick look, and we can create this cool mottled veined skin using the blend map, and you can either choose to use the overlay, which I think works pretty good, or the multiply blend mode. And now if we let's go ahead and use that texture as our bump map. So I'm going to open up bumps, and let's once again go to our tile textures where we saved the very same image, the marble. And now look what we've got. We've got this really cool raised skin area. And that's looking pretty cool. And if we play with our specular highlight, notice we can create a wet look as well too. And that can be really cool. So we have this wet thing going on. Now once again, of course, you can play with your colors here on your blend or your texture. Now we've chosen to keep the skin tone under there, and once again you can adjust the amount of blend, the amount of bump to create the effect you want. And so let's go ahead and now let's go up to the face, and let's once again load that marble to the face, and let's load it to the bump as well. And now you'll notice the face is a different size. Let's go to overlay here, and notice the veins are tighter together. Now you can either choose to adjust the size of the upper body or the face. Now what we'll do right now, let's just adjust the face size for this blend, and I'm going to lock the ratios here. Once again, you'll be able to do this to a 0.5, and now we've got a texture that maybe matches a little closer. And since they're tileable, they do a pretty good job of matching. And so now we've got a little closer size. Now you can go either way, make it a tighter vein pattern or a larger vein pattern. Just play around with the offset, the tiling, and you get the right size that you want. Now if you want to go all the way, you could substitute this face texture also for the marble, and now we've got this going on. And you can once again adjust this, and once again play with your specular highlights on this to match, get that wet look like you did, and you can copy the numbers from the upper and lower textures. So this will all still work in iClone 6. You'll be able to do the same thing, and actually it'll be a little bit easier in iClone 6. Okay, let's go ahead and play a little more now with our retexturing of our G3 character. Let's go ahead and replace the skin texture with our marble again. There we go. Okay, getting a really strange, bizarre, gruesome looking skin texture. Now what you might want to do is save this texture in a folder, and you can just save this under a folder that we'll call Swamp. And I'm not even going to worry about calling it upper, lower, whatever. We'll just save it. Now one thing you might try to do, and it'll probably lead to a problem, if you want to think, oh well, let's just use the paint bucket and let's just do the legs. Well, you got to remember you've got the pants there. You can't really do that. So what we need to do is navigate to our lower skin texture, and so let's do that. So we'll go up here to the textures, and we'll do lower. And now, since we saved that texture, now we can now add it to the lower skin, and it'll be easier to do the hands with the paint bucket. We can easily change them. The feet, we have shoes on, remember, so we'll need to go and find the shoe surface, which I would prefer they call feet, but they call it shoe. And then we'll load that material for Swamp Thang right there, and now we've got everything covered with that texture. So it's getting there, looking pretty good. Okay, let's work on the face just a little bit. Let's go to the head tab, and let's go to eyes. Remember, if you were watching closely, the eyes were glowing. So let's go down here and find the yellow eyes, and they're kind of cool. What we're going to do is take those iris, the whites down, make sure we're on mirror, and we'll lower make that darker, like so. And let's go back to irises. And you can, of course, add, you have some textures here, the eyeball, left and right. You can add a glow. So navigate to your glows. And let's try that one. There we go. And we'll need to do it for the right as well. And so that can give your eyes the glowing deal, and that's kind of cool. So you'll play with those. You can animate that, of course, too, in the timeline. Now, if you were watching very carefully on the opening video, you saw that there was an opening in the skull, which is kind of a gory little detail that you could see into the cavity. Now, it's a little tricky now to do it. I should have done it earlier on, but I'm going to show you how we can do that. And we do it just the same way we did the pants in your paint program. I'm going to grab another Dylan character here, and then I'm going to go down to skin again, select the skin tab. I'm going to launch that face texture, and then I'm going to add a layer and do pretty much what we did with the pants, only create an opening here, and you can draw it jagged in any size you want. And once again, what we'll do, only we'll do it a little reverse this time, we'll have black for our opening right there, and then add another layer here and put it underneath that layer, and we'll get rid of that selection area, the marching ants they call it. And now we will, oh, there we go. Okay, we will save this now as a JPEG, and this will be an opacity map for the skull. Okay, we're back in iClone after saving a JPEG in Photoshop. We've eliminated that extra Dylan we had. Now let's go and navigate to where we saved that little opacity map, and I saved it as Skull 4. And now you can see we have an opening in the skull cavity. Kind of gory. You could now, of course, create an object and put it in there, and let's do that. Let's go over here to props and blocks, and let's just take a ball, and we'll do a quick right here. I'll change the size. And you can shape it with the stretch tools if you want, maybe get a better shape. But for now, this will just be what we'll do. And you can have a brain. Now let's find a image, and I found an image online that I think will work for this. And put it under skin, and here's a little abdomen. Kind of gory. Once again, change that texture style. You could put a bump map on there, do that, and now you can have that inside. You'll want to attach that object to the head, and we'll right click on it, and you can see, if you can barely see it, attach, and now attach to the head. And now when he moves, that will move, and we can control that positioning, and you'll need to position it probably a little better and whatever. Okay, pretty gross. One thing you might want to try to do is, let's lose that for a minute, use that marble texture again, or any other texture, and adjust its contrast and create a hollow man, as it were. Now you can notice we got some problems here with the eyes and the mouth. Those can be turned off, as it were. If you'll go over here to head, eyes, if you want to lose the mouth, what you will need to do is load in a completely black opacity map for each of these objects. You've got upper, lower teeth, tongue, and throat. If you load in a black opacity map, if you'll navigate to your opacity maps wherever you save them, and you can eliminate those objects if you choose to. You have to do one for each one. and that way you can get rid of and create a kind of a bizarre transparent man, which is kind of cool. So you might have some fun experimenting with that, and go and do the same thing here with the skin here, and we can do that simply by going down here to the upper, and once again loading in that particular image. You have to navigate. It can get a little crazy sometimes with all the folders that you have, but whatever works for you. And once again, you can adjust contrast and brightness on these objects here. Now it does it globally, you'll notice too. So you can create a real cool effect there. Okay, one more thing you might want to do. I've taken our Dylan back to our basic modification that we have, is change his proportions. And that's, of course, very easy to do. Just go to your Avatar tab, Avatar Proportions, and let's bring that down where we can see it. And here's where you can make adjustments. And pick a leg. I usually mirror that if you want to make the length taller, make the torso length taller, adjust the head size. You can lock everything together and adjust it entirely or whatever, whatever works. Make the hands possibly a little bit bigger, maybe longer, and let's mirror that so we get the same. Feet will probably be much bigger, so we'll adjust those, the lengths and the depths probably. You might want to lock all that together and adjust that. So that's something else you'll want to do to get the character just like a button. Don't forget there's a neck adjustment under here too. You can extend that neck, kind of gets hidden sometimes, and make some adjustments to that, give him a different look. And then of course the other thing you'll want to do is probably go into the head itself and adjust eyes and nose. I always like to get those cheeks kind of sunken, extend the jaw, the chin. There we go, that's what I want to do, extend it. Tweak the ears, the mouth, make those adjustments to get the character shape that you want. And once you've got that, then you can definitely say you've definitely modified the creature a good bit. So okay, I hope you have some fun in doing a very simple, quick modifying of the texture simply by loading in different textures.